Good maintenance means safe operation of the transmission. Therefore, it is crucial to perform all required maintenance correctly. Automatic transmission fluid (ATF) specifications differ by manufacturer and model, but generally include parameters such as viscosity, temperature performance, and additives. These specifications ensure adequate lubrication, optimal shifting performance, and protection against wear and tear in the transmission. It is essential to use the fluid specified in the vehicle manual. ATF is a specialized lubricant. It is not an oil but rather a mixture of various chemical compounds with a significant number of additives. It must meet many specifications. ATFs are colored red to distinguish them from other liquids used in a vehicle. ATFs are specified mainly according to vehicle manufacturers' directives. Common ones are Dexron, General Motors, or Merkin, Ford. Do not use containers or fillers for transmission fluid that have been used to handle any antifreeze or engine coolant solution. Fluid must be handled in clean containers, fillers, etc., to prevent foreign material from entering the transmission. Clean around the end of the fill tube before removing the dipstick. Lay the dipstick in a clean place while filling the transmission. Clean the transmission fluid pan. Before using containers, check them for any damage or leaks. Keep the container tightly sealed to prevent contamination. Clean the outside of the container before opening it to prevent dirt from entering. Store the fluid in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight and extreme temperatures. These values are reference values. The definitive quantity is the one determined by the fluid level check at operating temperature. Only use approved viscosity grades, following the manufacturer's recommendations. When choosing the optimum viscosity grade of fluid to use, geographical location must be taken into consideration. It is important that proper fluid level be maintained at all times because the transmission fluid cools, lubricates, and transmits hydraulic power. If the fluid level is too low, the converter and clutches will not receive an adequate supply of fluid, which leads to transmission malfunctions and damage. If the level is too high, it causes overheating of the transmission, and fluid may be expelled through the breather or dipstick tube. Check the fluid level using the following procedures. Park the vehicle on a level surface, set the parking brake, and/or emergency brakes. Shift to N, neutral, or P, park, start the engine, and let it run at idle speed. The primary purpose of the cold check is to determine if the transmission has sufficient fluid to operate safely until a hot check can be performed. A cold check should be made when the transmission fluid is at approximately 30 degrees Celsius. This temperature typically occurs after 3 to 5 minutes of operation in idling. If the fluid level is not within the cold range, add or drain fluid as necessary to bring the level to the middle of the band. Correct the final oil level after another inspection during operating temperature. The fluid level rises as the sump temperature increases. The transmission fluid must have reached the operating temperature of 80 to 90 degrees Celsius to check the fluid level. Note the fluid's color, milky appearance, or any trace of coolant in the fluid. The fluid should be a clean, bright red color and have a sweet smell. If the fluid is dark or black or has a burnt smell, it indicates that you need to change the fluid. If the fluid is low, use the correct type of transmission fluid, refer to your owner's manual, to top it off, ensuring not to overfill. A transmission flush requires specific and professional-grade equipment to completely replace the transmission fluid in a vehicle. It's designed to remove old, contaminated fluid and replace it with new fluid, often including a cleaning process. A transmission flush helps maintain transmission efficiency and prevents overheating. Many manufacturers recommend a transmission flush every 30,000 miles or 2 years. Some suggest a flush only every 100,000 miles, and others don't recommend a transmission flush at all. A transmission fluid change simply drains the fluid with gravity. A change usually does not drain all of the fluid, but does allow you to replace most of the old with fresh transmission fluid. The fluid must be changed whenever there is evidence of dirt or high temperature, indicated by discoloration or a strong odor. More frequent changes may be required when operations are subject to high levels of contamination or overheating. The specified fluid and filter change intervals must be adhered to, according to the operating instructions of the vehicle. The filter must be replaced each time the fluid is changed. A transmission fluid change involves draining the old transmission fluid from the pan, replacing the filter, and refilling with new fluid. Only drain ATF at operating temperature and for at least 10 minutes. Switch the engine off, unscrew the fluid drain plug, and drain transmission fluid at the drain hole of the fluid pan. The transmission fluid is hot and therefore, when loosening the drain plug, wear protective gloves. Do not put your hand into the draining fluid stream. Unscrew the filter cover and drain fluid from the filter chamber. Replace the filter cartridge and O-ring on the filter cover and on the fluid drain plug. At each fluid change, examine the fluid that is drained for evidence of dirt or engine coolant. A normal amount of condensation will emulsify in the fluid during operation of the transmission. However, if there is evidence of coolant, check the cooler, heat exchanger, for leakage between the cooler and fluid areas. Metal particles in automatic transmission fluid can indicate normal wear, but also point to potential component damage. Fine particles may be normal, but larger shavings or chunks are a sign of more serious wear or failure within the transmission. When these particles are found in the sump or on the magnetic plate at the bottom of the pan, if present, the transmission must be disassembled and closely inspected to find the source. The color of the fluid should also be noted. Screw in drain plug with tightening torque 35 Nm, and mount filter cover with tightening torque 29 Nm. Remove the dipstick and fill with max 10 liters of transmission fluid. Start the engine and once idling, immediately and slowly top up with 4 liters of transmission fluid. Insert the dipstick and check the cold fluid level and correct if necessary. Then, heat the transmission fluid to its operating temperature and check the fluid level, adjusting it as necessary.